You guys know there's nothing I love more in this life than fading the public when betting. But I think specifically the sport of football is where it is most effective. And even more specifically than that, the NFL. It's the most bet on sport in the world. Well, in America, right? Soccer is the most bet on sport in the world. Tennis, actually, a close second. But the lines are so influenced by, the multi tens of millions of American adults who are betting on the NFL this year, and that number is going to keep exponentially growing as each state slowly but surely, not Minnesota, gets to legalize gambling. Um, so I love one fading the public. Public loves favorites. I love plus money line underdogs. The NFL showed you on Sunday. But I love sports so much. I'm fading the public in every sport, and I'm always, college football, college basketball too is a nightmare because I'm following all these games regardless if I'm betting or not. But since I'm following all of them and I like to bet, if I think I've got an edge on a side, I'm going to bet it. A lot of people don't like totals. I don't stray away from totals either. I like just watching games regardless. And I think it's awesome just different ways you can follow a game inside the game with the explosion of sports betting. I went like dead even this weekend. I actually had an okay weekend thanks to a nice Sunday, despite having well over 100 bets because it was like, you're up some, you're down some. There's too much to bet on. College football's here, the NFL's here, September baseball, you name it. I'm on it. Soccer's in full swing. I love it. The Colts had absolutely no shot in Jacksonville. You knew this. Why? I told you. As soon as Michael Pittman Jr. got ruled out. Schefter breaks the news kind of early in the weekend. No shot. No shot. People are still going, yeah, I saw Pittman, but it's the Colts. It's Jacksonville. I go, I'm just warning you. I'm warning you. This is a trap. Colts -3 is a total trap. And my God, the Colts got blanked by Jacksonville. Who was Matt Ryan going to throw to? They can't, he's holding on to the ball because they can't protect him. Matt Ryan, he's holding on to because he's got no one to throw to. Pittman Jr.'s gone. Paris Campbell had one target. He couldn't shake his one defender to get open. Mo Alley Cox can't catch a touchdown. You name it. It was terrible. My goodness, they had no shot. Matt Ryan, I'm like, it's looking brutal, my man. Like, I think you're a surefire lock for a Hall of Fame. Are you going to be remembered like Brady, Rodgers, and all these other guys? No, you're going to be more remembered than Philip Rivers. And unfortunately, a little bit of that is because 28-3 is always going to be attached to you. But, it's looking like age is catching up to everyone except Tom Brady. If Tom Brady outlasts Matt Ryan, something's wrong there. Meanwhile, Tom Brady is looking like he's not even eaten in the last month. If you see him at press conferences, and then if you see him on the field, he's been a total fantasy bust. At least he's winning. He finds ways to win. He's been doing that his whole career. Buccaneers 2-0. Yet Brady's been an absolute dud fantasy wise. So is Matt Ryan. I tried to warn people who were betting on the Colts. Yikes. It was bad. Chiefs are probably going to absolutely destroy them in Indy for the home opener. Now, Chiefs, obviously, the huge public side. Colts haven't had a home game. Colts haven't covered a game yet. It's all lining up to Colts winning against Kansas City. But with my luck this year as a sports fan with my specific teams, it's probably going to be 40-3. Speaking of the Chiefs, they get the win back on Thursday. Chargers get the cover. And that's one of those where it's like, come on, that money line should have cashed for the Chargers, but we'll take the 3.5. That's money there. Some of the craziness from Sunday, Jets and Dolphins, who I both had money lines. They had no business winning. Neither team had no business winning that game. And they both come in shock the favored side. My goodness, that was insane. The Vegas trap game of the week was certainly the Patriots. People are going, Patriots favored at Pittsburgh. They showed you why. Trubisky, everyone's celebrating him in week 1. Look how the Bengals look now. That week 1 win doesn't look so strong. Patriots, all of a sudden losing to the Dolphins doesn't look too bad either. So that was where Vegas had the right team favored. Public still hammered the Chiefs, the Steelers, and they got destroyed. They got destroyed money-wise, but it was just a 3-point game. Terrible game. My goodness, that was 31 total points. Time to worry about the Rams. Time to worry about the Bengals. Rams beat the Falcons. The crazy game. Cardinals had no business beating the Raiders. That was a shock. Coming back from down that much, Raiders can't catch a break. But yeah, I mean, it's like the Rams almost gave it all away to the Falcons. despite Cordero Patterson not doing anything, Kyle Pitts not doing anything. More on that in just a bit as we recap the fantasy weekend. But, near disaster late versus the Falcons, the Rams, a quiet 1-1, a no-show against the Bills, and then they nearly blow it. They blow their cover against the Falcons, but they limp in. Cooper Kupp's been incredible, right? He's been your fantasy go-to so far. You drafted him in the first 3 picks. He has paid off in 2 games so far, another 2 touchdowns in the win. But Rams fans, maybe an uneasy 1-1 going into week 3. How about the 0-2 Bengals? Death taxes and Cooper Rush. I told you on Ricky Larson's podcast this past week. Again, we do the lucky bets every week where I come on, kind of break down the lines for him and for his audience as well. Pick a little games. We do some props, good stuff over there as well. And he obviously comes on here and gives you great fantasy advice for who to start. We answer the biggest headlines of the week. That's a weekly segment that people have enjoyed, and we'll keep on doing that throughout the season. This was the easiest money of the weekend. Cowboys money line. Everyone's thinking, oh, there goes Dak. All right, there's no way that an NFL team with a really good defense against the Bengals, who just lost, but they were a Super Bowl. Everyone loves Joe Burrow. That's going to be an easy blowout. Cowboys, no sweat winner. They can't keep Burrow upright. That offensive line's a bunch of turnstiles. And it's a shame. He's been sacked, I think I saw 6 times in the last 6 games, something astronomical. Crazy. Bengals go into Jerry's world and lose. Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, those guys were feasting. Anthony Barr, a low-key signing for the Cowboys. Like, that defense still plays, and anyone can win in the NFL any given week. That killed a lot of people in Survivor this week, as, again, it was a week of carnage. I picked the Packers in the big Survivor. That's moving on. The one I won last year. Again, I lost. Last year, I had the mulligan used week 1, went on to win the whole thing. This year, I've got the mulligan used week 1, hoping I could go on another run. My other smaller Survivor pool, I went Giants, got a little riskier there, and it paid off. Panthers stink. Matt Rule stinks. Baker Mayfield stinks. David Tepper, worst owner in sports. And there's a lot of them, let me tell you. We'll talk about the Twins later in baseball. Giants 2-0, Panthers 0-2. Good thing the Niners brought back Jimmy G, huh? Damn. Sorry to see an injury happen to anyone, and especially, Trey Lance too, one of the quarterbacks are the faces of the league, and he's a young hope to be superstar. It looks like he's done for the year. So again, we're going to have the Niners and Jimmy G running it back, right? As that should be a playoff team. Jimmy G gave you what Jimmy G gets you. He beats a terrible team. Defense plays as they destroy the lesser side, and 7 yards down the field at a time, good completion percentage, maybe throws a horrible interception here come playoff time. But that's what you're going to get with that Niners team year in and year out, again, as Trey Lance is done for the year. But I've got a question. Are Niner fans a little slightly relieved? You're not rooting for an injury ever, but is it kind of like, okay, the Lance experiment, albeit such a tiny sample size, didn't look great in the, monsoon that was Chicago last week. And then, how was he doing the limited time he looked against the Seahawks? He's done. You got Jimmy G. You know what you get with him. You've gotten to a Super Bowl with him before. You've gotten to the playoffs deep with him before, obviously multiple times. Was there a little bit of an exhale, which was like, okay, well, at least we feel a little bit, we know what our floor is for the 49ers. You didn't really know with Jimmy G. You didn't really know what the floor could be with Trey Lance. And again, it was early, but it wasn't he wasn't quite passing the sniff test early on for Niner fans, I feel like. So, we'll see how that plays in going throughout the season. Jimmy G taking over, Trey Lance injured. Niner fans, where are we at with that? Let me know in the comments. Broncos in for a reality check over the last 2 weeks. Like I told you, Russell Wilson, I wasn't high on them. Broncos, I weren't high on them. And Russ has been bad. He's been bad. Again, Broncos O-line, terrible, like the Seahawks O-line was when Russ was there in his final year. And he's completing barely over 50% of his passes. It's been bad. And he hasn't faced anyone. The Texans and the Seahawks, wait until he faces a real team. Not been good for Broncos Nation. They're 1-1. They got the win versus the Texans, but I'd be a little bit worried. before we start saying Russ is going to take the division for us. Look at the Chiefs early on. They look like Super Bowl contenders yet again. And then lastly, the Cardinals had no business winning that game in Vegas. Crazy. Kyler Murray's up all weekend playing COD, the new COD release, and he's still down 20-0. He finally woke up, right? He stayed up too late, a little groggy in the first half. Then he got going, right? He woke up in the second half. That's all he needed. He beat the lowly Raiders. Raiders can't catch a break. Devontae Adams, where have you been? At least this week. He popped off last week. No show this week. And then the Packers humble the Bears as usual. I didn't even watch that game because I know exactly that game happens every single year, twice a year. Low scoring, well under the total, and the Packers just cruise. How did the Bears only throw it 11 times total in the entire game? I don't understand that. But Packers, Aaron Rodgers owning the Bears yet again. That's your NFL week recap. All right, let's talk fantasy football. Didn't have a good daily fantasy week. Lineup was pretty much a dud. Saquon came back down to earth. Stafford was fine. I had Daniel Jones, who was not fine. But fantasy for the season, I think I swept all 7 of my leagues, which was good. So, booms, busts of the week. Quarterback, Flacco, Joe Flacco. Browns stink. Captain comeback, Joe Flacco. He's still doing it. Flacco and Matt Ryan were the 2 quarterbacks drafted. Flacco went before Matt Ryan, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Delaware quarterback. Those 2, one's got a Super Bowl, the other doesn't. But Matt Ryan, I think, arguably had the better career playing wise. Jared Goff, Detroit fans, stand up. And how about Wentz again? That same game. I everyone picked him up. Everyone's screaming him this week. I'm thinking, my God, he had like 0 points through a quarter. I'm like, of course. And then he explodes again. Still a top 5 quarterback. Crazy bust. We just talked about it. Brady again. I'd be looking at the waiver wire if you got Brady as your starter in fantasy. I got to tell you that much. Running back, such a fickle position. Pretty much the usual suspects. Tony Pollard making Zeke look irrelevant. I sent Zeke to the bench in 2 of my leagues, and that was a good choice. Pollard, he had a good game, but again, look at the running backs. And you had Aaron Jones and someone else who went off, Chubb, who went off. But then the drop-off from those guys who put up the points is stark. And then you go to the receiver position, and you're like, look at all the different people putting up, exploding the running back numbers, the scoring in PPR for receiver. It's crazy what's happened. Wide receiver, Hill and Waddle both go for 40 burgers on the same team. God. St. Brown just behind him, 39 for the Lions. That's looking like a great draft pick if you took him early in fantasy. Garrett Wilson, he's been on my bench for 2 weeks. Pops. Joe Flacco, huge game. Wilson benefited from that. He had 30, making things interesting if I possibly start him. How about that same rookie receiving class? Drake London, a huge game for Atlanta. Aguilar sighting. You don't know who to play for the Patriots. Receiver, running back. Usually the defense is the only one set in the stone for the Patriots week in, week out. Aguilar, huge game. It's an Amari Cooper sighting. Christian Kirk earning that contract against the Colts. He had a huge day. Gold rush position. Your flexes should be loaded receivers. That's the end of the running back era. Bust. Devontae. Where were you? Jamar Chase. Shut down by Trevon Diggs. And again, if you can't keep Burrow upright, if he's having to throw less than 3 seconds from hiking the ball, it's going to be hard to find your deep threat receiver in Jamar Chase. So that is the boom bust position for receiver. Lots there. And then tight end, not much here. Such a weak position. Mark Andrews finally stepped up. It's Andrews, it's Kelsey. Andrews finally does his thing. Excuse me, a little frog in my throat. I dropped Mike Gesicki. Of course, he was TE4 this week. Great. However, good thing I picked up TE number 6, Gerald Everett, for the Chargers. We got to talk about Kyle Pitts. I am wearing my Falcon shirt. What was I going to do? Get rid of it? I supported the team for a dozen years, and it's soft as all hell. Where is Kyle Pitts? Where is he? 2 games. I'm seeing guys draft him in round 5, round 4, round 6. He is a high fantasy draft pick this year. Here is his stat line through 2 games. He has a total of 4 receptions for 38 yards. Here's the even funnier part. He has identical lines in 2 different games. 2 receptions, for 19 yards. What you just got 2 button hooks in the playbook that they go to each game? I think he misses Matt Ryan a little bit. On the other side of things, I think Matt Ryan also misses Kyle Pitts a little bit because he's throwing to fucking Mo Alley Cox. And Paris Campbell is getting targeted once. Kyle Pitts, where are you at? Are you going to start him this week? Is he down to a flex position for you? It's a weak tight end group position. Guy you should be able to bank on, and he has been unbankable thus far 2 weeks through the season. Hey, at least you get another, 3.9 points for him next week if he keeps up his current pace. All right, let's preview Monday Night Football. I think the Titans keep things close tonight. I'm fading the public. Titans, again, losing to the Giants. Giants are 2-0. Bills destroy the Rams. Rams nearly gave it up to the Falcons. I think 10 is way too much. If you want to tease it, I'm also a proponent of that. I could see the Titans even outright winning this game because what's the theme of this episode? It's plus NFL money line underdogs, even on the road. And then in Philly, total coin flip for me. I'm not a believer in either of these teams. I could see the Vikings winning. I could see Philly winning at home. I don't think it's going to mean much. Yes, are they playoff teams? Yes. Are they going to do anything in the playoffs? I don't think so. And I think they're fringe playoff teams too. But so far, they're making me eat my words. And at least one of those two teams is going to be an undefeated 2-0 after tonight. Let's look ahead. I've got 2 teams to bet on for week 3, a bet you should make sometime early in the week. You know what? You should make it today for NFL week 3 coming up this Sunday. Looking ahead, I like the Bears at home. They just beat the Niners there handedly as underdogs. Cash that. Texans are coming to town. I think people are high on the Texans from covering against the Colts and covering against the Broncos, right? As they are only plus 2.5 away road dogs, and the public already flocking to them. They think they're going to cover 3 straight. I say not so fast, my friend. Green Bay always decimates the Bears. They're at Lambeau. Chicago coming back home. You get them at a short line. I think this is going to be the Bears by a touchdown. They're minus 2.5 right now. Public loving the Texans. I'll take the Bears there at home. Texans, nothing special to me. I think Justin Fields has a big bounce back, and that team gets it done at home. The reason I'm telling you to get this today is because minus 2.5 is super key. If the Bears win by a field goal, say this goes to OT, Bears walk it off, field goal, crazier things have happened in the NFL. You're cashing your bet here by grabbing it today. That's my first of 2 bets for NFL week 3 to grab today. And I've been shitting on the Broncos. They haven't covered a game yet, but I actually love this upcoming spot here in home, prime time, at home in prime time, that is, as everyone and their mother is slamming the Jimmy Garoppolo-led 49ers because they beat the team that beat them, right? Seahawks, whatever. And then they destroyed the Seahawks, right? Whatever. I see the Broncos at home looking for their first cover of the year. Undefeated at home, mind you, even though they didn't cover against the Texans. And the Niners couldn't beat the lowly Bears on the road. Now, I know a different quarterback, but a couple of Jimmy G interceptions are all we need, and you are getting the Broncos at home as a dog. That's a tough place to play, I'll tell you. I'll take the slightly chiller temperatures as we get closer to October in the high altitude of Denver, and I like them to take that outright at home. They're +1 right now. So if you want to grab that, do so. I think that the Denver Broncos are going to win that outright. Sunday Night Football. Russell Wilson's going to shine. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to fall away. I still have question marks with this 49er team for sure after we just saw what the Bears did. But again, hey, 2 teams. I'm all situational spots, and I'm all fading the public. I like the Bears at home, and I like a home underdog in the Broncos. Nobody talking about. That's a tough place to play. 49ers due for a road dud. They did so in Chicago, not in prime time. Imagine what it's going to be in prime time as well. Night game as it gets a little chillier. It ain't San Fran, I'll tell you that much, in the Mile High City. So those are my 2 teams to bet on for week 3 in the NFL. I'm keying in on the Bears at home and minus 2.5. So you get that possibly by a field goal win. And in Denver +1 right now, I'm taking their money line. All right, let's go to the college ranks. There are 32 undefeated teams remaining in the nation. How about the Syracuse stunner that toasted my under in Syracuse? I had Purdue, there was a pass interference call I didn't exactly agree with. Syracuse walks it off. They're undefeated. And it's been pretty good for head coach Dino Babers, who's been there for a while, has seen some great teams at Syracuse, right? The surprise teams, also seen some lowly teams. They're undefeated so far. They're 3-0 hosting Virginia. That should probably be 4-0. Minnesota, Gopher Nation. They thump Colorado. I got a call to be like the spotter, like Joe Buck always talks about his spotter for like football. Like the announcer has a guy who basically points to a roster. He has binoculars. He points to a roster for the guy that made the tackle, right? People, if it's a no name receiver, not the usual suspects, you could point to that. You basically help the broadcaster. I got offered to do that for Colorado. I guess they had a guy, their team is terrible this year. Maybe they had a guy that didn't make the travel, but I ended up having to work and had to turn it down. Would have been cool, but it was also a crap game, and I also would have rather been the broadcaster. But hey, if I had nothing else going on, I would have done it in a heartbeat because I'm a sports fan. Then I would have ate that up. I've never been to TCF Bank, so that would have been cool. But Minnesota, that's the kind of thing I'm trying to get around here, is that they're undefeated. They've got a test. They've beaten everyone. Okay, sometimes they've lost to Bowling Green before. All right, so they pass, the first cupcake part of their schedule. Now they're at Michigan State as 3-point road favorites after Michigan State just got trampled by Washington. Say it with me, guys. Trap game. Michigan State at home. Big time. I'm keying in on that. All right. Yep. Let me have it. I was already writing my will for Boston College to lose at home to Maine. We didn't cover. Shocker. I mean, we were losing at one point in the first quarter. I'm thinking, I'm working. I'm just following the game. I don't even know if it was on TV, if I could have watched it. I'm thinking, my God, of course this is about to happen. I never bet against my team ever, any of my teams. I was looking for a Maine money line. I was looking pregame for a Maine money line. Couldn't find one, and I guess luckily didn't. So BC wins. It's Maine. I don't know what to take away from this. Jurkovec looked good. They weren't really trying to show any of the playbook in the second half. The punter, a couple of weird things happen. Weird things happen to Boston College. They punt, they fumble, they throw key interceptions in poor timing situations. I think Vegas is telling me something here with Florida State this weekend, Saturday night game down in Tallahassee. That's where they're at, right? Yeah, the Florida Capital. Minus 16.5. Oh, man, it might be the first time I am confident in a Boston College line this week. But they're also so public, so maybe they are just going to get blown out. I don't know. But at least this is what they do. They beat Maine, and they get me slightly back to, can we beat this team? 16.5-point underdogs. I don't believe it. I think that's way too big of a line, but who knows? We couldn't even cover against Maine. We won comfortably yet uncomfortably at the same time. Look ahead spot for Florida State. This is the only thing where I'm like, Arkansas got caught in the look ahead spot as they're traveling to Texas A&M this week. They barely got by a Missouri State. Is this a look ahead spot for Florida State as they host Wake Forest the next week? Wake Forest has got Clemson this week. They had a look-ahead spot in which Liberty came to town, almost outright beat them as 16.5-point dogs. But now they get Clemson. Not a look-ahead spot for Wake Forest, right? They're dead set on Clemson coming in this week. But Florida State, seeing 16.5, BC looks terrible this year. They're looking at Wake as Florida State's one of these undefeated teams. Do they get caught with their pants down, so to speak, by looking ahead too much over BC in a apparently down year, right? I mean, it's not looked good on tape, I'll tell you that much. So that's my low hope. But if they're the public side, they're toast. They're absolutely toast. All right, let's continue running through the rest of the college football schedule this week. As really nothing, it's Georgia, Alabama. This we know, but let's take a look at some of the undefeated teams and who they got this week. Maryland is at Michigan. Those are Michigan's minus 17. Clemson, I mentioned, at Wake Forest, plus 7.5. This line has already moved a full touchdown towards Wake Forest since it opened, and it's non-public support. Wake Forest, are they going to do this, or is it at least going to be? I mean, it was plus 14. Now it's plus 7.5. That's crazy. The line came out yesterday. Keep an eye on that one. It might be Wake Forest's season in the ACC, because Clemson doesn't, as long as DJ's in at quarterback, that's a docile team. That's obviously a contending, that's a top 5 team, but they're a docile top 5 team. Where the ACC, I think, smells blood in the water there. And Wake Forest is a team that can certainly do something at home. I think Vegas, at least the Sharps, right? I imagine Sharps are hammering this line early because they think it's going to be at least a real close game at Wake's place. Just mentioned the look ahead spots for Wake Forest and Arkansas this past week, but they both get in and out with victories. That's all you can ask for. Baylor at Iowa State. Iowa State undefeated. I wasn't high on them this year. This is a test. They are 3-0, and they are favored, according to Vegas, to go to 4-0, -2.5 at home against Baylor. Baylor lost to BYU. BYU just got destroyed by Oregon. TCU at SMU is a pick'em. That's an interesting one. There's TCU's undefeated. How about this? Duke and KU. You got KU fans thinking they're about to, go national champs in hoops and football. But hey, this ASU transfer, Jaden Daniels, right? I think is his name. This dude can play. Kansas 3-0. They're -9 at home versus Duke. Duke also a surprise 3-0. Probably going to beat Boston College, like Syracuse is going to beat Boston College. Yikes. But it was almost a bounce back week for the ACC as they showed, hey, you know what? We got some teams. They won some games this weekend. Duke KU is my interesting game of the week. I'm going to be paying attention to. I wonder if my dad even knows KU is like a surprise 3-0. He loves KU basketball. He knows KU football stunk except for that Todd Reesing year when they went to the Orange Bowl. We doing some things here. Rock chalk. UCLA should have lost to South Alabama. I was about to cash that plus 850 money line ticket. UCLA walk-off field goal. They're at Colorado this week. They should stay undefeated. Florida should have lost to USF. I was about to cash a 1250 money line ticket. They have USF had a field goal to tie, and they missed it. And they probably they should have probably won the game by a walk-off touchdown. Bad snap, forced the field goal, and they missed it. Notre Dame barely gets by Cal. I mean, good God, that was the easiest money ever. Cal spread. They're at North Carolina. Notre Dame -1 at North Carolina. UNC is 3-0. The public's all over them. They don't look that good. They're like a soft 3-0. I think this might be a great spot to take a more talented roster in Notre Dame here. Short line. It's in what is this? Oh, short line in Notre Dame. I thought it was at Notre Dame. Nope. So that's a short line for Notre Dame. I like it. Just need New Canaan, Connecticut's own Drew Pine to play better and limit turnovers. He went viral for his offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, lighting him up on the sideline in the old landline kind of quarterback phone up to the booth. And then let's see here. Florida at Tennessee. So Tennessee's undefeated. Tennessee -11. People overreacting a little bit there. We'll see some interesting lines. Indiana undefeated, kind of a surprise undefeated as they just squeak by Western Kentucky. They're at Cincinnati. Vegas has them losing. Cincinnati overwhelming favorites -17.5. James Madison, first year in Division I football, or not Division I, but FBS. All right, 2-0. They're at App State. App State just had a walk-off Hail Mary to avoid disaster against Troy. App State favored -8 at home. Oregon at Washington State. Washington State undefeated. They beat Wisconsin already. They're going to take out the Ducks +6.5. Vegas keeping that thing close. That might be the play. Arkansas at A&M. This will be one to watch. Andy Stoops hoping his team could stay undefeated. This would be a marquee win. -2.5 in favor of the Aggies right now. And all right, Rutgers. You guys barely got by Temple. I was going to laugh so hard if you lost to Temple. You would have been right there with BC. But you get by. You don't cover. Your first true test. You're +7.5 at home as Iowa comes to town. Tulane upsets Kansas State. Kansas State at Oklahoma. See, that's where the public was coasted to a victory, right? Overwhelming on Oklahoma, and they overwhelmed Nebraska without Scott Frost. I thought maybe Scott Frost is gone. Sometimes teams do well when they fire their coach, regardless of sport. I guess not regardless to the Husker athletic program. That program just flat out stinks. Is it wrong for me to like the Wildcats at Oklahoma +13? Coming off the loss, everyone's going to be on Oklahoma again after they just covered. Kansas State has won this game before in recent history. I don't know. Kind of like a bounce back there for the Wildcats. And let's see. Tulane, they're minus 12.5, undefeated. They're at home against Southern Mississippi. Ohio State minus 17.5. They welcome in the Badgers. That it's going to be so public, but that seems a little short, right? Ohio State should destroy Wisconsin. USC looks good. Can they keep the SoCal cover train? Keep on chewing. Oregon State plus 6.5 at home. USC comes to town. What's going on with that line? Battle of two undefeateds. 6.5 for the Beavers. Again, I imagine everyone and the mother's going to be on USC. And in Stanford at number 18, Washington, the Huskies making their top 25 debut after disposing of the Spartans. And then those were two lines where sharp money was moving towards Washington. That one paid off against Michigan State, but then sharp money was all over Mississippi State on the road at LSU. Looked good early, and then LSU came back and won that. So Vegas, or there will be 28 teams undefeated because a couple of teams are playing each other. Vegas is telling you there will be 22 teams left out of the 32 entering this week. Well, I'll go even further and say there will only be 17 undefeated teams left. I think we're in for some more carnage, and I say it every single week. Nothing has changed. Georgia will be your SEC champs after beating Alabama, but then Alabama will come back and beat Georgia in the national title game, and the favorites get revenge and win the title. All right, let's talk Major League Baseball here. Corbet's Corner, good to be back, and obviously a lot to get to. Oh, man. I tell you, I just absolutely destroyed a Chili's plain hamburger and fries. All right, where was I? Yes, baseball. All right, give or take, 14 to 16 games left in the MLB season. Twins Goose is cooked. See ya, Rocco Baldelli. Get rid of the GM. Sell the team. Pohlads have been terrible owners. I'll turn that team into champion for you. All right, this is my official. Sorry, there's still some Chili's in there. This is my official application to you, the Pohlads. I guess if you want to hold on to your team, bring me in. I'll make that team a winner. I've won many championships on MLB The Show. Come on. I've got you. This is my official application because whatever you've been doing ain't working. I got to tell you that much. Other than that, the Mets Braves race for the NL East is still on fire. Mets have Milwaukee and Oakland this week. Braves have Nats and Phillies. And then will the Yankees hold on the other side of New York City? 5.5 and 6. That's their respective games. They lead the Jays and the Rays by. Yanks have Pirates and Boston this week. The Jays have Phillies and the Rays. So the Rays have a tough stretch. They're my pick for the AL East and the AL. They've got the Astros and the Jays. So either they could really announce themselves or slide. And then look at the other thing. The Yankees could luck out if the Jays and Rays kind of like split or beat up on each other 3-1 in their 4-game set. But what if the Jays just go on a tear and the Yankees falter? Buckle up. So that's what to look for this week in the MLB. Paul Goldschmidt, I think he's going to be the MVP going away for the NL. He needs one final push for the NL Triple Crown because it looks like in the homer department, he's going to lose to Schwarber. But the RBI is in striking distance of Pete Alonso. He's got the average. All of a sudden, Aaron Judge, good God, baseball fans have had a crazy good year. It's been a jolt for these guys because you got the chase against Roger Maris for the Yankees and Aaron Judge. Everyone loves a guy just absolutely creeping into the 60s for home runs, 50s, 60s. You've got Goldie having a great year. And then you got Albert Pujols chasing for 700. Judge might win the Triple Crown going away in the AL. He's got the homers, obviously. He's got the RBIs. He's 2 percentage points back of the Triple Crown for average. I think it's Xander Bogaerts with 317. Judge is right there at 315. And it looks like he's going to obliterate Roger Maris's record as he is now just 2 shy. He's 1 away from Ruth at 60. That's going to be a hell of a home run. When he ties Maris, going to be awesome. 2 away from Maris, 3 away from the AL record, and 16 games left for the Yankees. Can he get to 73? Bonds? I don't know. It's going to be a tall task. Pujols, 2 away from 700. It's been awesome for St. Louis, for baseball. I did an early Corbett's Corner in April, and I was like, is this, it's going to take 19, 20 homers. Can he do this? And here we are today. Seemed like a stretch at the time. All of a sudden, here we are. 8-game road trip for the Cardinals at San Diego, at LA, and then they're in Milwaukee for 2 games. If he is at 699, he's at 698 right now. If he's at 699 on Wednesday, September 28th in Milwaukee, final game of that road trip, I am going to Milwaukee. You could book that right now. Then they're home for 3 against Pittsburgh. Is he going to do it in front of the home crowd at Busch? He only has 3 chances to do it there. And then they're at Pittsburgh for the final 3. 14 games to get 2 home runs. Can Pujols do it? What a year, what a season for baseball. I got to tell you, it's reinvigorated me as a baseball fan, kind of following it. I like going to games. Obviously, I'm going to look to go to that game in Milwaukee if history is on the precipice. It's been cool. Live Golf continues to make headlines. Here was the crazy thing I noticed this weekend. Live Golf was featured on ESPN.com on a college football Saturday, like in their headlines kind of tab. ESPN's got a pretty significant partnership with the PGA Tour where they're showing a lot of holes this year on their platforms on ESPN Plus. How did they feel about that? Was I the only one who noticed this? Crazy stuff. Cam Smith wins Live Golf Chicago, right? I was wondering if some of my Chicago buddies were going to go to that. People are debating, are the crowds great? Are the crowds not great? I think it looks pretty solid. I'm not checking it out, on YouTube. I'm not like following it, as close, but I am obviously following it. And it appears that a majority of people are, not just in the golf world, but the sports world. Of course, Cam Smith wins because, he's playing a bunch of scrubs and Dustin Johnson. Is a merger inevitable in the future? Phil Mickelson wants it. He was kind of the whole spearhead of Live Golf. Greg Norman is the CEO of it, former PGA Tour golfer, major champion. Greg Norman does not, but again, he's playing hardball with the PGA Tour. He's trying to be better than them. It's interesting, it's interesting what's going on and what's going to happen. Something's got to give because there's rumors that John Rahm might be ditching. Are they going to grab other? I'm thinking Ricky Fowler. All these guys, like, why not no-brainer? Brandt Snedeker, why no-brainer for some of these guys to go get paid? And then eventually it's going to have to be a conversation where it's like, wait, we can't have all these top guys going there, because people are still watching the PGA Tour. But then again, wait a second, the PGA Tour had a crazy finish where Danny Willett 3 putts. He basically has a 4-footer to win the tournament, lips out, blows it by, has a longer putt 5 feet back, lips that one out, loses in front of a stunned crowd and everyone watching. Max Homa defends. I was so close to life-changing money. Going into the final round, I was in 3rd place out of like 24,000 people on DraftKings for this PGA Tour DK lineup. And I'm thinking, oh my God, first place is 25 grand. I was in the $5,000 slot. I slid down to 30th and turned $5 into 150. Hey, that's great. But what could have been? So Max Homa defends his title, but it's like, wait, that was a stunning finish, where it's like, oh, that happens to us regular golfers. That didn't crack the headlines. You know what did? Cam Smith, winning it Live Chicago. Something's got to give. I like the PGA Tour. I'm still watching. I'm watching over Live Golf, but are people not like me gonna go check out Live a little bit more? And it's interesting what they do. It's like sparse tournaments here and there. So when PGA Tour is more times than not every single week, right? A long grinding season. People only really care about the majors, but now it's like Live Golf is spacing it out to where every one of their kind of tournaments when they show up in a city is their major. They're conquering the headlines at this point. So crazy. Something's got to give. Is there a merger happening? Live Golf putting the pressure on the PGA Tour. Is John Rahm the next to leave? Who's next? Because there's going to be more as the battle wages and roars on. All right, stacked Corbett's Corner, stacked week of sports, as is usually the norm here during football season. So good to be back, bringing you the thoughts and opinions here on the Corbett Sports Network, Corbett Sports Entertainment, winging it back this week as well. Hope you enjoyed last week. Great stuff. I'll talk to you here shortly.